Eurovision 2024 semi-finals running orders. Welcome to Matt Loves Eurovision. Please do click on the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and like, share, and comment below. Now, before I get too far into this video, just to say I am recording this live as a live stream as well, so we may get some questions from the chat. I will do my best to try and keep my eye on them because I'm recording from my phone and I've got the chat up on my laptop screen, which is just to my left, probably to your right if I'm on your watch where you're watching. But if we do have any questions during the live stream, I will try and answer them as best I can while here. So we've had the semi-finals running orders announced today. A very exciting, always an exciting moment of the Eurovision season when that happens, and always generates a lot of discussion and chatter about what does this mean for qualification. Often it means not a lot at all, because at this stage we don't really know what the staging is going to be like for a lot of these, but it does give us a start to a feel of kind of how the flow of the show will go. And to be fair, there are some spaces or slots that are generally better than others in terms of qualification. Now, this year for the semi-finals, the voting remains the same. It is done by a televote, so the top 10 of that receive from the televote will go through to the final. Something that is different this year is that in previous years, the two or three automatic qualifiers, that'd be the big five and or the host nation, if the host nation isn't one of the big five, would have a bit of their song played. They would be about a minute or so of one of the rehearsals. That's changed for this year. That the big five plus the automatic qualifiers will be doing their performance live during the show, and it will be incorporated into the show. So it's incorporated into the running order. Though I did notice that the way Eurovision put it, they didn't give them a number, because obviously that affects the way that the televote will go. So they're not kind of given a number within that running order. So what I thought I'd do is I would have a look through just kind of the running order that we've got to see if there's any surprises, if there's anything that is unusual about it, or any comments. I think we'll start with semi-final one, and I think the opener, Cyprus, probably didn't come as a great surprise for anybody. I think almost everybody that I had seen on Twitter and various other discussions thought that Cyprus would open. It is an up-tempo, dancey, girly bop with the youngest performer in the contest going forward, but I think she will be a very confident performer, because I don't think they would be putting her first otherwise. In the second slot, which is not necessarily the death slot when it comes to semi-finals, it's more a death slot for winning in the final, but it's still not one of the better ones, is Serbia. Unless, I think poor Serbia are very unlucky. They have been given like the second or third slot for the last couple of years. I think the last 3 years potentially. Again, probably can look in more time to see exactly how often they've been given these early running order slots. So not a great slot for Serbia, but doesn't necessarily mean that they won't qualify, just it's not a plum spot. In third place, and the third in the running order is Lithuania. Lithuania have got a big diaspora, which I think will probably help bring in televoters as well. It's a very up-tempo song as well. And I think looking through this overall, both of the semi-finals, they've definitely gone for how do the genres kind of switch rather than having lots of same genres lumped in together. We do have a really wide range of genres at Eurovision this year, which is obviously really good to see, and it probably has made things a bit more interesting when it comes for the running order. Then fourth in the running order, we have Ireland, and they are immediately followed by the first of the automatic qualifiers, and this time it will be the UK, so Ollie Alexander will be performing live. And I think this is probably quite a big help to Ireland. UK historically is a good source of televotes for Ireland, and so having Ollie immediately after the Irish song, I think will make sure that there's a lot of UK people watching the semi-final at that point, and will be seeing what's either side of Ollie. So that is a good thing for Ireland. Following UK, you have who we were hosting on behalf of last year as Ukraine, and they're immediately followed by Poland. And then we have one of the big favourites in a very good position, seventh. I think if I recall rightly, ran that seventh place in a semi-final running order, which is obviously towards the sort of centre of all of the songs. That tends to be quite a good one, and that is Croatia. And then immediately after that, Croatia, we have Iceland. And I think, although not to preempt too much of my reviews that I will be doing, I do think that is not a good slot for Iceland and perhaps reflective of the chances of qualification that they have. Then we have another of the automatic qualifiers, Germany, followed by Slovenia. And then we have Finland. Now, Finland was probably the favourite, one of the favoured ones to go to sort of close this semi-final. That has not been the case. Finland did close their semi-final last year with Karja and Cha Cha Cha, and they've got another very up-tempo song this year, but that will not be closing the semi-final this time. They're immediately followed by Moldova, and then Moldova is followed by the last of the three automatic qualifiers on this semi-final, which is Sweden. Now, I think that is pretty tough on Moldova because it's squished between the very up-tempo Finland and also the very slick Sweden. So maybe it's not so good for Moldova there. And then to the last sort of tranche of songs, we have Azerbaijan, then we have Australia. Performing in the second from last place is Portugal, and then the semi-final closes with perhaps a bit of surprise, Luxembourg. And of course, Luxembourg are returning to the contest for the first time in over 30 years. So perhaps a little bit of a reward for Luxembourg returning, but also Luxembourg happens to be an up-tempo girly bop, so that means that this semi-final is bookended by two girly bops. I do think that this is a really good draw for Portugal. Portugal have a very kind of slow, arty, atmospheric ballad, and I think it could easily be lost in kind of earlier on in the semi. But where they've got in the semi-final, I think is a really good draw for them. And also Luxembourg happens to have a very large portion of Portuguese people living in Luxembourg, so from a televote perspective it's perfect for them as well. So yes, that's a quick summary of the semi-final one. Should probably just say is, although we talk about first halves and second halves around when we come to the semis, and that generally second half tends to be better than first half in terms of qualification chances, just because it's televote only, and you vote at the end in the semi-finals, it just favours the latter ones a little bit more. However, in the actual show, in the show itself, it's not split into two halves as such. It actually gets split into probably about thirds. There's normally a couple of breaks. I'm never quite sure exactly where those breaks will come. I suspect we may get one after the UK in this case, because I suspect Ollie's got a contraption that'll be on, and I'm not entirely sure where the next one will come, possibly between Finland and Moldova, or between Moldova and Sweden potentially. But yeah, there's normally a couple of breaks within them. So yes, moving on to the second semi-final. That is being opened, and this was, I suppose it was a choice of one or two songs for this. It's being opened by Malta. Malta is another of the kind of up-tempo girly bops. There was a potential, I think a lot of people thought that Austria might open this one, but no, it will be Malta. Followed by Albania once again. Albania seems to have a bit of a habit of getting drawn in these very early slots. I think they've drawn second when they've got to the grand final the last few years. They've been drawn in second place a couple of times, and now they're drawn in second place for their semi-final as well. Although, to be fair, this song probably does fit quite well into that slot in terms of how things flow. But yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate for Albania, as it is unfortunate for Serbia. Then we've got Greece and Switzerland. Now, these two are very distinct songs. They are quite high up in the betting odds. I've got a lot of fans, so I don't think either of them will be worried, particularly about being in the early part of the running order. However, the song following those, Czechia, might be a bit more worried. There's quite a big genre shift between Switzerland and Czechia, or between Greece, Switzerland and Czechia, so that might help them, but it could also be to kind of Czechia's disadvantage. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know again exactly where the break will fall. And then we've got the first of the automatic qualifiers performing in the second semi-final, which is France. And then after France we have Austria, and that really is quite a gear crunching change of genre, going from sort of the big emotional power ballad of France to We Will Rave from Austria, which is a be a slice of late 90s, early noughties Euro dance. Then we have Denmark following Austria, and then after Denmark we have Armenia. Now, although I think Denmark's got a stronger song than they've had in some previous years, I think potentially being sandwiched between Austria and Armenia may not do them any favours, because Austria is a very, very, very up-tempo slice of nostalgia, and Armenia is a very distinctive, very up-tempo, sort of ethnic pop, sort of ethnic bop. Denmark is a nice, decent kind of song, quite up tempo as well. But I just wonder whether that might get overshadowed. And then finally, we've got one of the other sort of big male ballad, which is Latvia. That comes in ninth place. Then we got another of the automatic qualifiers, Spain, and Spain are immediately followed by San Marino. Now, in some ways, San Marino being in 10th in the running order is a little bit of a shame because their song is 11-11. So perhaps it would have been nice to have them in 11th place. However, it is actually funnier that they follow immediately after Nebulosa in the running order, because the band representing San Marino is Megara, who are a Spanish band. So that was a double dose of Spanish there. And I think obviously for San Marino, that is very helpful because they will likely get a lot of televote points from Spain, potentially 12 televote points from Spain. Also, there's that story behind that the Spanish Eurovision entry this year, Nebulosa, they had tried to enter Una Voce per San Marino last year and didn't win. And Megara, the Spanish band representing San Marino, tried to represent Spain last year and were in the national final and didn't win. So they have swapped countries in terms of who they're representing. After San Marino will come Georgia, and straight after Georgia comes Belgium. Now, although in the odds San Marino are very low in the odds at the moment and are not that high in the kind of the scoreboard app, I think perhaps people are overlooking them or perhaps underappreciating them, because they are a really exciting live Spanish rock band, and I'm sure they're going to be very colourful and distinctive. And in Belgium, you've got one of the big vocal favourites. There's a chance that Georgia may get a little bit sort of squished between the two of those, but again, it's until you see it, all the staging and how it flows, but you don't know for certain. But that's just one of the risks that there will be. Then we have another slightly crazy song coming up as Estonia, and followed by Estonia have the last of the automatic qualifiers in this semi-final, which is Italy. And following Italy, you will have Israel, which brings a ballad, and then Norway is second from last. Now, Israel being between Italy and Norway may mean it gets a little bit squished, because Norway is a very sort of powerful, very distinctive kind of rock folk song, and Italy is a huge fan favourite as well. But it could equally work to the other way, and that the ballad will stand out between those particular songs. And then closing the semi-final, and this is no surprise to anybody, I think everyone predicted that this would close the second semi-final, is Netherlands, and that's Joost with Euro Papa. I'm not sure. So there we go. That's the two semi-finals. But I think until we see the sort of the staging and see how they flow, we'll see whether that running order has really done favours for and who it has not. There's a lot of stats you can go into, but what the kind of the percentage chance of each slot being qualifying, and I think there's a Eurovision analyst called ESC Tom. Do recommend you go and subscribe to his YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. But he does a lot of kind of analysis of these kinds of things as well. So you are more likely to qualify from the second half of a semi-final. However, I think in looking at these across these in the first semi-final, it may be that you actually have more from the first half of the semi-final qualifying, but that remains to be seen. But obviously it'd be interesting to hear what you think as well, so obviously do please let me know in the comments. Just another bits of Eurovision news. We have, having thought that I'd got all the songs ready, it turns out we haven't quite got all of them Eurovision ready, because Luxembourg will be releasing an updated version of their song on the 29th, which is in a couple of days' time. Fortunately, that is just before I start my top 37 countdown, because that's the other bit of news, is that I will be very soon starting my daily top 37 sort of preview countdown, which goes through all of the countries, all of the songs in this year's Eurovision, just ordered by my personal preference, not any kind of prediction of who will actually win, with just a little bit of information about each of the songs and how they might do, etc. And I'm sure we'll probably mention the running order as well. But I'll be doing an introduction video to that before. I'll be doing an introduction video to that as well in the next couple of days, so I will pin that up on my YouTube channel. But for now, that's probably all of the news I've got. And well, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've been watching from live, I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. And if you're watching after I've broadcast this, well, I hope you enjoy it as well. And please do join me again soon, and take care. Goodbye.